if you remember in the boom tube video, if you haven't watched that, you need to go watch that on the main channel. But this one right here was the very first one I ever had. I bought it in 2014 for the Monte Carlo, and that was around the same time that I was having it converted to a 4-speed. I accumulated all the parts, but I did not know how to work on cars back then. That was when I just graduated high school. Didn't know anything. I could take the carburetor off and put it back on without messing up the car. That was about it. Yeah, so I had, I don't know, like probably $7,000 saved up over the entire course of being in high school, because I wasn't allowed to buy my own car. At first my dad told me I could, and then when he realized I wanted to buy like a 3rd gen Camaro so I could do burnouts and stuff, because back then you could get one of those things that ran and drove for like $1,500, no problem. He wouldn't let me buy my own car because it was too dangerous and I had to drive something slow, safe, and stupid. Basically his words. So I had to use the Suburban. And then, you know, I went by, ended up being able to get that Monte Carlo. It was like a graduation present, sort of. I guess that's what you could call it. He's probably surprised that I did graduate. I think it was more or less a way to encourage a creative outlet to be not doing stupid stuff. I guess he figured if I was in the garage working on something, if I had the urge to do that and I had an outlet to do it that wasn't messing up the vehicle I had to use for daily transportation, which did happen, that you might as well do that, keep me busy and allow me to learn stuff. And I think that was a great move, because I didn't do anything stupid. I just stayed in the garage working on stuff. I messed up a lot of stuff, but coincidentally it kept the car off the road, so he really got what he wanted anyway. I barely got to drive the thing because it was always broken from something dumb that I was trying to do and didn't do it right. I dropped the car off at this place to get the 4-speed put in. It was a Muncie M20 back in July rolls around, August rolls around, nothing. About midway through September they finished the car, and I had this thing waiting for it, and I said, oh, can you guys put this on? And they're like, oh, we can't really do that, but we know a guy over in Evans City who can. And I also had him change the intake manifold to a Edelbrock air gap, MSD ignition, stuff like that. Things I thought were going to make it faster, and maybe it did, maybe it didn't, I don't really know. But they said they knew the guy who did the exhaust and the dyno tuning at the same time, so they took my car over to Jeff Lutz on a flatbed. I never met him before. First time I met him was after this was already done, which was, I think, the same day I had to write a check to pay the other place for putting the 4-speed in. And I can't remember exactly, but man, it was like, I feel like it was like $4,000 or something to put something ridiculous. I remember it was so much money that like almost all of my money was gone, and I didn't think I was going to survive. That was a real shock to me, to have to sit there and write that check. It's like, oh my god, I have no money. That's all of my money, just gone. It wasn't all of it, but it's pretty close. And then I get the car back from Lutz, and he hung this boom tube on there for me, put 2 mounts in the frame, and added these little extensions to get it to connect to the big block headers. And it dynoed it. I think it made 375 at the wheels and 452 foot-pounds of torque. It was a boat motor. It was like a 502, like old Mercruiser boat motor. It was pretty good for that, but came time to write the check for that. And God, that was like $2,100. And I was like, oh my God, I literally have like freaking $200 left right now. Like, I had the least amount of money in my piggy bank that I had had since I was like freaking 12 years old, because I always just saved money. And I think the exhaust portion of just this was like $700. And he drilled 2 holes in the valve covers to put breathers in them, and that was $75. And the dyno tuning portion was like $1,000 or something. But I left there completely just deflated, and I thought, oh my god, if I'm ever gonna have a fast car or faster car than my friends or people I don't like around here, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do it myself, because I can't keep up with this. This is so much money. I can't do this. It's just not gonna work. Paying for labor costs more than paying for the damn parts. And I thought, you know what? I got the same 2 hands, 2 eyes, and a brain that the people who did this have, or people who work on this stuff have. I can figure it out. I'll figure it out. I have to. Well, a whopping 6 days later, I chunked the bottom of the Muncie 4-speed out all over the road. It basically blew the counter shaft out the bottom of the transmission. I was roll racing an Evo, and I was winning until I went to shift from 2nd to 3rd gear about as hard as I freaking could, and it just sounded like someone just Gronk spiked a glass bottle off the highway, just everywhere. And I thought, God, what was that? So I put the car in 4th gear and drove the rest of the way home, as none of the other gears worked, but 4th still did. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go home with that. Parked the car, didn't think anything of it. About 2 weeks later, one of my friends, Sean, he went to Wyotech, and he knew how to work on cars. I didn't. So next time he was home, we dug the thing out, because I knew the transmission was toast somehow. So I told him about it and said, hey, how hard would it be to put my Turbo 400 back in, because I can't afford to buy another transmission. I have no money. I have no money left, and I want to drive this car some more before winter, because I had just lost use of the car for the last half of summer, which really, really sucked, especially when you're 18 and all you want to do is drive around and make cool car noises. So he said, yeah, we can figure that out. That's easy. He was a little more confident than he should have been. That's a different story. With getting that thing back in, it was funny. But we laugh about that now. So we pull the car out of the garage and drive it a few miles over to my garage, which I had just started using that place for plasti dip and stuff. Mr. Forbes' garage, the guy that owned that Rolls Royce, he said, yeah, you can plasti dip stuff in here, whatever, just like cut the grass and fix things, stuff like that. So that's how I paid my rent, was helping out, basically doing whatever he needed to be done. And we get it over there. Sean rolls under the car and he says, oh my god, dude. And I'm like, what? And he said, I know what's wrong with it. And I said, what is it? He's like, just look. I'm like, just tell me. He's like, no, you just roll under here and look at it. So I rolled under there, and the whole bottom of the transmission is gone. And I roll back out, and I'm just like, dude, how did I drive that car here? How did I drive it home? How does it still work? I don't know. And he's like, I don't know. I've never seen that before. That was crazy. So we figured out how to get that Turbo 400 back in there, but that'll be a separate story. We'll just have this like story time. We'll make that a separate video and continue it on from there to fill out the saga of how I learned how to work on cars. But that's why, you know, call this boom tube right here and that car right there, me realizing that if I wanted to go fast, go faster than any of my friends could, that I had to put my brain to it, make friends who knew how to work on stuff, learn from them, and be able to do the labor myself. Because if I could put twice as much money into the parts, I could go twice as fast as I would if I could only spend half that much and then have to pay the other half to somebody else to do it. Oh yeah, also prior to that, when I got that car, it had a 273 gears and an open diff, so it was a turd. Which is probably why my dad thought it was safe for me to drive, because when he test drove it, it had no nuts whatsoever. Joke's on him, because I bought a posi unit and 373 gears for it, and I paid the dealership that I used to work at a lot boy. I took it to them to have them put it in, and that cost like $780 for that. It's like, God, the gears and stuff weren't even that expensive, and I had to do that. Like, that sucks. So that was my first experience, but that changed the car completely. It was like, in the way the shifter was hooked up before, I don't think it ever went into first gear. And after we had blown it up and put it back, the cable was adjusted correctly, and I could use first gear, and it was like, oh my God, this car rips. It was fast. Fast for me at the time, because it had so much torque. It was like just a freaking monster down low. Like 30 roll, forget about it. It was going somewhere. But I could go on about this forever. That thing changed my life. Jeff Lutz charged me a bunch of money, changed my life. Ended up learning a lot from him. That's how I got into Fab World and all that stuff. Jeff Jr. is a real good friend of mine, and I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for them, for that reason, and later they became a big source of teaching me how to do stuff. There's a separate video on that on the main channel on a playlist called Backstory. Yeah, you find the one about Jeff Lutz Jr., you can find more about that story. So, well, glad to hear it. This is kind of what the extra channel is for, just a place for us to share more about us with you guys. I like it. Hope you like it too. Leave a comment if you want to hear any more parts about stories, or have questions about something you want to hear a story about. Leave it in the comments and we'll do something about it. We'll see you in the next one.